Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Boys from the Baltic Star. If you were here expecting science fiction and Ben's beautiful face, then I'm afraid we're here to disappoint you this evening. We will not be upset if you vanish off or if any of you VOD squadders stop watching immediately, because I know most people are here just for Ben, and it's very understandable. But unfortunately, something has come up for Ben, and he is unable to attend this evening. We sort of aware that it might happen, so we were able to bring something together. So Q, Ewan and I having forensic conversations at about 6 o'clock this evening after Ewan's work. And we've come up with something this evening that we hope you will enjoy. And I think we will enjoy. And quite frankly, that's more important than what you think. So it's our evening. You can do anything you want. We're stuck doing this now. We're dedicated. We're into it now. So, we can't go nowhere unless Ewan throws his character out the door. Just to be done with it, which is possible. Anyway, if it's your first time here, you're very, very welcome, of course. We are the Boys from the Baltic Star, and we are on day 2 of our 4-day Baltic Star weekend. On Thursdays and Mondays, we play video games, and on Fridays and Saturdays, we role play. And as expected, it's normally Traveller on Friday, but tonight is something a little bit different, which is very cool. And then tomorrow will be Those Dark Places, which we'll talk about at the end, if we remember. We're not too tired to, which sometimes we are. If it's not your first time, of course, you know what to expect, and you know what's going on, and you know who we are, but we'll do the intros in a minute. We will run, I don't know how long we're going to run tonight. A couple of hours, 2.5 hours, who knows? When Ewan texts me and says he's getting tired, that's when we're going to stop. If we finish the story tonight, we finish it. If not, we'll roll through to another session when it's only us two. So please feel free to come and go as you wish. There'll be a break in the middle if you want to dedicate yourself to listening, but then don't want to miss anything. So that's your chance to get have a wee, grab another glass of wine, because that's the classy way in these streams, and return. There's a little red sun there. If you click the red sun, there'll be ways to spend points. A lot of the Traveller ones, of course, are turned off, but there's still some stuff down there. We can still listen. We can still enjoy Ewan's presence, which is always an absolute joy. There he is. And to be honest, I'm quite happy just to enjoy Ewan by myself. So I'm going to stand him anyway, whether anyone's here or not. But feel free to look through those, spend your points and so on. I'll drink to that for one, which is if you want to agree to someone or there's sort of a toast or something, we want to make sure everyone can be involved. So that is only 1 Imperial credit, so that is very easy to afford. So anyway, before I get going, a quick introduction of us before we move on to the game for this evening. My name is Luke. Hello, I'm at the top here where it says Luke. I am the... what did GM stand for in the end? Gitmaster, I think.
That was the one.
That was the one in this
I didn't say it, but I'm reaffirming it.
I'm the Gitmaster for this series of the Tony and Rudi adventures, and including these spin-offs. And I don't know. I make things up as I go along. I don't really. There's some things written down. I just hope that my players are as wonderful and creative as they always are. Speaking of wonderful and creative, the man diagonally down below me, looking handsome as always, is my brother from another mother. He's the housewife's favourite, and he's the other reason why people turn up tonight, especially the housewives. It is the delectable Ewan. Good evening, Ewan. How are you?
Hey, Luke. I'm good, thanks. I'm good. No pressure with the player creativity or anything. Players creativity. I noticed you used an S.
Players apostrophe. I don't know. There's an apostrophe in there probably. It's all on you though, basically.
Yeah. I'm very excited though. It is. It's gonna be good fun. I quite like these nights. You know, like those moments at school where your teacher leaves the room briefly.
Yeah.
Ben is no longer here. We're going to burn the whole thing down, but not too much because Ben will be back eventually.
Because we've still got to come in tomorrow, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're right. It does give that vibe. It's like the two boys when the teacher's out. It does give that sort of vibe to it. He has no power over us tonight. We are free to. I don't know what.
Oh, I think he still has power over us. Just the mere threat of his appearance. It's not a threat. I'd love to see him.
Oh, what a lovely guy. So anyway, for those eagle-eyed of you that follow the channel at all, you'll notice that we're playing a spin-off game of a series that's been happening over the last year or so, which happened under very similar situations to this. The first one of those, we were having a guest on the show. What were we even going to play that night? Do you remember?
We were going to play the Revolutionary Bears, I think.
What was that? Lab Evolution game?
But yeah, we were going to have a couple of guests on.
That's true, and then we couldn't. Yeah, that sort of fell apart a bit in the last day, didn't it? Really?
Hmm.
Yes, you're right. And then, so in the very last minute, I put something together for that was Ben at the time and John, Greek John. I'm sure he's not the only John in Greece, but he's Greek John to us. We love John. See, people that saw there was a Tony and Rudi adventure tonight probably would have got excited about him being here, but he's not here. Only his spirit. His voice goes through our very souls. Every aha tonight will be dedicated to him. But yeah, so that happened under similar situations, and that's been going on for about a year with every now and again with Ben and Greek John, and for when Ewan wasn't available. And then we thought it'd be really nice for Ewan to join in. So the latest adventure in St. Moritz, Ewan has come along and has a character and a sort of made that twosome a threesome. And I think that's going along quite well, Ewan.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, mostly I just wanted the opportunity to play with the wholesome goodness that is Ben and John combined together.
Oh,
and I'm very happy with how that's been going.
There is a lot of wholesome
goodness. They might not be. But hey.
You're the ghost at the feast. But
Indeed.
tonight it's gone full circle and it's your time to shine. They can't moan about it. They can't see you as an outsider anymore because this is the Gaston de la Rue story. It's his story. It's canonical. It's all about him. Here's the star. Why don't you tell us a bit about this star that we're basing our tale around tonight?
Yeah, sure. So I am playing Gaston de la Rue. A young, I'm gonna have to do, how old do we say? 21 in the current time frame. He's a reasonably well built, not as well built as Rudi, obviously, and somewhat intelligent, but not as intelligent as Tony, obviously. Young man. He's certainly less gaunt than he is when they get together later on down the line, should we say, or whenever we next decide to play. A Frenchman who was raised in a reasonably well-to-do family on a vineyard. I don't know how much you want me to go into.
I don't know.
And how much we'll explore in game, but he's quite charismatic, I suppose. Well, he certainly thinks of himself as very charismatic. That might not necessarily be the truth, but
he's got a certain je ne sais quoi about him, and we can say that because he's French. Finally,
indeed.
Use it in its correct place.
I'm going to try and not use too much French tonight because I don't want to butcher a whole language.
Oh, me too.
But who knows?
I normally go in these adventures. I normally go as far as Monsieur, and then end up just going to Mister anyway. So
yeah.
Although it's going to be very her based today because this is a Zeppelin that flies out of Germany. So so there'll be a lot of hers tonight. So it's an absolute pleasure to have Gaston on board, and while some of Gaston's backstory will be maybe explored, who knows? Some will need to be explored in the introduction, and I hope that's okay. Only things that we've shared beforehand to make my beautiful introduction possible.
This particular character has nothing that I would like to keep hidden. I don't think any of mine really do, to be honest, but if there was, I would have told you. It's all good.
That is good. Have you got a bit of note-keeping paper by you, Ewan, for all these important notes?
I have.
Wonderful. That's very exciting. In which case...
Whether they'll be well taken
is a whole different matter. Well, here we go. Today, let us start, potentially finish, the tale of Gaston on the Graf Zeppelin. So the year is 1929 and the date is the 24th of April. And we join Gaston Delarue aboard what is becoming the world famous LZ-127 Graf Zeppelin. This is in its golden years. This is before it becomes a propaganda arm of the Nazi Party. This is before explosions on the Hindenburg and people's concerns about Zeppelin and the fuels they use. Instead, this is when they were really making a name for themselves post-World War One. You see, the Graf Zeppelin started making big trips just a year ago in 1928, running a few routes to and fro, often going, the Monkey Tails, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. We're just introing.
Hey, Monkey Tails.
You're joining us from the very beginning of our tale, and it's a pleasure to have you with us, and I hope you had a wonderful game yourselves. And I'm glad you're back playing, because I know you've had a couple of wonky weeks of things, and it's an absolute joy. Pirate, good evening to you. Pirate, I hope you're doing well. Absolute joy to always have you with us. And I hope you had a wonderful... What were you playing this evening? Sorry, I was a bit stressed this evening, so we're preparing for this last minute, so I didn't get a chance to see what you were playing. What were you playing? How did it go? Did anyone die? I like to see a death or two around your game. Or madness. Or madness. One, I'll enjoy getting mad.
That's not the way to welcome readers. I love it when all your characters die.
Die, or go mad.
Well done, Luke.
Yeah.
Well done.
Hey, Minerva. How you doing? You all right? Thank you for joining us. You're joining us as D&D. How did it go down? Did it go well? Does that mean you're playing on the D&D section of Twitch? The one that people are actually go to? That's quite exciting. No deaths. Who is the GM or the DM? I guess it's D&D. The DM needs to work harder at getting these deaths happening. I thought that was the whole point of D&D, wasn't it? Horrible and gory deaths. Anyway, there may be deaths tonight, but if Ewan dies, it'll be a very short stream. As it is, as we only have him tonight, Ben is not available, unfortunately. But
and if I do, then Gaston could just be a ghost in the story that we're currently playing through with Tony and Rudi.
I'd have to watch it through to see if anyone else communicates with him, like Sixth Sense.
Yeah, that would be really weird.
He's like, oh no, the other you've got. I think you might have storyline armor, but not everyone has storyline armor. But anyway, the year's 1929 to you, new viewers. I'll go through it again. I know. Sorry, vodders. But it's 1929, and Gaston. This is many years before meeting Tony and Rudi and befriending them. Gaston is a young 21-year-old who has been invited aboard the LZ-127 Graf Zeppelin, a world-famous Zeppelin flying out of Germany and making trips. For the first year, it was making practice journeys across the Atlantic, and it's been spending so far a lot of 1929 making short trips around and across the Mediterranean and into the Baltic. In the future, the Graf Zeppelin will become very popular and very world famous for being the first Zeppelin to circumnavigate the world all the way around the Northern Hemisphere. But that is for the future. Right now, it's making one of its trips, its second full trip across Europe, with a route going from Friedrichshafen in Germany by Lake Constance, flying over France, Spain, Portugal, Tangier, and then back home again via Cannes. Oh, back to Cannes again, and Lyon. The journey is taking a few days from the very early morning on the 23rd of April, because historically the Zeppelins weren't allowed to fly across France during the day. And would finish on the 25th. We're currently on the 24th and sort of heading across the Mediterranean, something we've definitely never done on this stream before. There are 24 guests on board, which is very standard for the Zeppelin of the time. And Gaston Delarue is one of them. Now for a Zeppelin that looks to fill crew, it's still early days, it's looking for the the well-known, the famous, the powerful, the rich, the important people, and mostly Germans, why is a young Frenchman, Gaston Delarue, on board? Well, you see, Gaston Delarue got a special invitation. As he mentioned in his introduction, Gaston grew up on a vineyard in the north of France, by Saint-Quentin in France, in the Aisne area, producing sparkling white wines in its glory days from Chateau Delarue. Very famous wines at the time, but sadly, for the last 15 years, of course, nothing has come from the vineyard. For you see, it was overrun by Germans in World War I and destroyed with the laying of trenches. The chateau itself taken over by the German forces, and Gaston's family vineyards gone. Now, Gaston, it seems, has managed to come across and save numerous crates of wine, vintage, highly sought after wine from the early 1910s. And the owners of the Graf Zeppelin heard about this and thought what a great idea it would be to celebrate a trip across France and Spain and Portugal, fine wine areas, by celebrating with some impossible to get sparkling white wine. And so, receiving the telegram, Gaston, for whatever reason, accepted and brought on board a precious, precious case of 12 bottles of vintage Chateau Delarue wine for them to enjoy this evening, the evening of the 24th. Sacre bleu indeed, Samuel Parry. This stuff is very expensive stuff. Indeed, as Gaston arrived, he had the police came to sort of make sure he got on board safely as he travelled up into Germany. Checked at the border and so forth, had to have special papers, but he got on board. The Graf Zeppelin itself, as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, is cramped. They called it a floating hotel, but that's generous to the Zeppelin and does hotels a bit of a misservice. The entire gondola itself is tiny compared to the overall Zeppelin and is 30 metres long by 6 metres wide. And that's your lot. Working from the front to the back, and I learnt some German to know this. The Steuerraum is the control room. That is where it's the front of ship where steering is done and such things happen. Behind that, I'm sure we can all guess what the Navig realm is. That's the navigation room. Those two, of course, not for guests to go into. Locked doors, impossible to get into. Behind that, to the bottom of the pictures we can see, is the kitchen, serving 3 meals a day for the guests in the cramped dining room. Next to that, the entranceway. Of course, Zeppelins weren't pressurised because they flew low enough. So theoretically, you could just open the door and wave to the cows as you passed overhead, and they would ignore you as they chewed on their grass. Above that, the funk realm, the radio room, again, out of bounds to passengers. But often seeing, because you can see into that, you would often see crewmen rushing in and out with notes and important messages. Then the main body of the ship, of course, the Aufenthaltsspeiseraum, which is the dining room. 3 times a day, set for meals, and otherwise tables are moved aside and set up as a lounging area. Chance to play cards, to chat, to socialise, and just for people to relax together and share tales of their lives. Before we head back into the cabins, there's space on board 424, as you can see, maybe if you squint at the screen. Starting 1 and 2 at the bottom on the right, sharing a large cabin with 3 and 4. As 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 share a nice large cabin above. Then you go to very basic cabins, 5, 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10. Before you have a washroom, men's and ladies' toilets, and another pair of cabins right at the back. During the day, these cabins will be turned out by crew, so they'd have a lovely, actually a really plush sofa in there. Before at night, things would be moved around and two sort of bunk beds sort of folded down for sleeping. There's a small writing desk and a chair by the windows. The windows in the cabins are small, but the windows in the dining room, each side have three beautiful arched windows. Of course, from the top, you can see the overhanging sort of body of the Zeppelin, but affording you amazing views. And you've been very fortunate because the whole of the 23rd, as you went into daytime, was beautiful. And the whole of the 24th was beautiful. And it's only now, as we've rolled into nighttime and it is dark, and the twinkling of lights has sort of given way over the Mediterranean, that finally it seems dark outside. The cabins themselves are very, very cold, unfortunately, and you've been given furs and blankets to sleep under. The slightly unpleasant thing in the cabins is that there's always a bit of a scent of the blow gas used up above you, reminding you that you are indeed travelling under a bomb, quite frankly, in the wrong circumstances. Like this smell does not spread out into the dining room, which is often overcome with the smells of the meals being served, the sweatiness of the people, and the scent of alcohol on breath. There is no smoking allowed aboard the Zeppelin. This one does not have a smoking room. And as it's a couple of days in, it is noticeable that some passengers may have a slightly shorter patience than they had when Gaston first ran into them a day and a half before. Still, the attitude and the vibe on board. The vibe, I know it's not a very good 1920s word, but I'm going with it anyway. The vibe on board is positive. People have enjoyed the day, playing cards. There's been a little bit of gambling. There's been some chatting. There's been some enjoyment going on. The chairs and tables have been moved back around as shown on the plan. And all 24 passengers have piled in to be served their meal. Gaston sits by the window. As you can see, the one at the bottom, closest to the kitchen. And opposite him sits a man that he has come to know on this journey, and that viewers of this channel might already know. For he is sat next to a recently retired Colonel George Hightower. Who is sat enjoying the meal and conversation. They've spent many hours chatting things through, and as an English speaker himself, Gaston has enjoyed the conversation immensely. Colonel Hightower is the only British person aboard the Zeppelin, and having fought in the war, has found some pleasure in spending time talking with a non-German. So as always on these adventures, this is where we begin, over food and over drink in a nice evening environment. Gaston.
Just quickly, Luke, I know you said that it does a disservice to hotels, but is that purely based on the size, or is it pretty grim inside as well, or is it lavishly
Now that
fitted?
is a very good question, and I have got a description of it. So there are
Just to make you do some more talking.
the walls are have wooden inlays, so around the large arch windows. It's set out wooden, so there's no metal visible whatsoever. It is doing its best to set itself out like an old hotel. Um, the decoration is very Art Deco. The furniture is over upholstered. You know, all leather, very squeaky, beautifully stuffed. The chairs have the sort of fine, thin Art Deco stems and legs. The lamps on the wall have those sort of Art Deco quill shapes to them. There's silver, there's chrome. It is very nicely turned out for a place. There's beautiful wallpaper on the inside, which is a bit strange to start with. And it is the same wallpaper in the dining room as every single cabin, which is also slightly strange. But it does create quite a good vibe. And sometimes, when the flight is smooth and you don't look out the window, you you can imagine yourself being in a 2-star hotel.
Fair. Gaston will pull the fur that he's taken from his room over his shoulders, just walking around with it, very much like the reindeer fur, from our future adventure. He'll say to Colonel Hightower, "Tell me, Colonel, did you get some of the sparkling wine earlier on in the trip? What did you think?"
Oh, sir, I must admit, I only had the smallest drop. They only bought around the first 6 bottles, of course. The rest saved for later this evening, and you know me, I'm not a drinking man, as I told you. I've barely touched the drop. But I feel like this wine of yours would be enough to turn a man to drink.
Well, it's of course it's not of mine. It's I wasn't alive when it was bottled, even, but it is very gracious of you to say so.
So you should be very proud of your parents and your parents' parents for producing such finery. They should be celebrated in their memory.
He leans in a little bit and says, "Well, I am very proud. I have a few more choice bottles, not cases, of course, but something saved for memory's sake back home."
Oh, the colonel's sort of eyes open wide a little bit before he sort of smiles and nudges his nose and he says, "Your secret's safe with me, young man. Secret's safe with me." Oh.
So tell me, what's what are your plans once we arrive at our destination?
Well, my plan was very much to disembark in Tangier. I spent a happy time there as a younger man before the war, and I left a young sweetheart there, probably forgotten me long ago. But it did give me quite a taste for the area and the ladies there, and I feel like it would be a fine place for a gentleman to retire for a short time. So
But
I think.
But you do yourself a disservice. Surely no one could forget such a fine gentleman as yourself.
Ah, you speak so finely of me, my dear boy, and I think this is why I've grown to like you. You see, as much as I like other people, I like hearing good things about myself even more. I could
Tell me
speak.
what was her name?
Her name was Isabel.
Beautiful name.
I remember it so well because the first time I heard her voice ring out, I turned to my friend and I said, "Is that a voice or is it a beautiful bell?" And they said, "It's both." And how we laughed! How we laughed! How we laughed!
Ah, you beat me to it, or your friend did, many years ago.
Of course, dead now. Both legs blown off. Good chap. Good chap.
Nasty business.
Nasty business. Indeed. A lot of brave men, of course, back then.
Tell me, were you serving out in Tangier when you were there?
Not at the time. Let's just say I spent a few years of my long service not necessarily fulfilling my service. Um, there was quite a number of us at the time that decided that taking a short break from the military was worth the risk. And as long as we returned with
Not
our
deserters.
no, dear boy, no, not at all, not at all. It was a time of relative peace at the time, and we've more than saved up our half our holiday time, of course. It's just let's just say we didn't return on the first day that perhaps we should have returned. Not deserters, dear boy, just late.
Oh no, I apologize. I meant no offense. I think the translation, something may have been lost.
No, no,
My apologies, Colonel.
no. Your
A
English
man
is
doesn't
excellent.
reach such a rank by being known for deserting his brothers in arms.
No, and being rich as buggeries doesn't hurt either.
Luke, whereabouts in the are we mid meal? Are we?
Yeah. So as you're talking, the starters are cleared around you as you're talking, and the main is brought in because it's only a short trip. It's very easy for them to keep fresh food, so the foods are very very good, and so people have been given the
So
choice.
cold.
Yes, so cool. People have been given the choice of steak or some really nice fish are the two mains. There's no vegetarian option, of course. They just assume that you'll remove the fish from the plate and eat the potatoes and the vegetables, of course. But the Colonel, of course, has a steak, and he sort of looks down at it and nods at the serving man and smiles at you and at whatever you've got on your plate.
Gaston has definitely gone for the steak as well, as blue as can be.
Ah, great minds think alike, friend. I feel like every meal so far we've ordered the same. If I were a little younger and you're a little older, I feel like we could have been good chums.
We still can, Colonel. And he'll assuming the waiting staff is still there, he'll beckon them down. Garçon, please, if you would, a glass each of the de la Rue.
Of course, sir. Very good, sir. Is Sir still okay with giving your speech this evening when everyone receives their glass of Delarue after dessert?
Yes. I am indeed. I'm not entirely sure how I can put this into words, but or what you wish for me to say, but I will of course address the guests.
Splendid, sir. Splendid. The captain will be delighted. Of course, I shall go and get some more Delarue from your personal bottle, sir. And he sort of hurries off in the direction of the kitchen.
It's a bit of a controversial pairing with steak, if you'll forgive me, Colonel. But
well,
when with friends.
Well, like I say, I've never been much of a drinker, so I don't really know what's the best thing to go with. I always assumed red, but this is such a fine wine that I think it'll go splendidly with crackers, with dog food. Indeed, it's such a fine year.
And may I say, Colonel, that you're. I mean, not to speak ill of your countrymen, but any other Englishman I know would have referred to it as champagne at least 5 times by now. Your your knowledge of the regions of France and the sparkling wines they're in, and the champagnes, no doubt, is impressive.
Well, my dear boy, I find that I spend so much time fighting across your country. I learned to respect the people there and the regions of it.
And it is much appreciated, and he'll raise his glass and finish off the last of whatever he was drinking previously.
Cool. And as the server comes out, and he sort of relatively surreptitiously, because of course this is not on tap for everyone, surreptitiously comes and pours both of you a glass, gives you a little nod, and looks to head off back to the kitchen.
Gaston will politely nod back and tuck into his mane because it sounds good, and I'm quite hungry.
Oh, it is good. It's a fine beef. It's a fine cut of beef with a nice a really nice sort of dark fruit sauce, sort of almost like a gravy with sort of they're mashed potatoes, but sort of slightly crisped on the top, bit dauphinois almost. In the small kitchen, they couldn't quite achieve it, but not too horrifically off. And a really nice mix of some sort of greenery on there that just really fits the palate.
I tell you, Colonel, the chef, they're French. This is a fine meal, and the best chefs in the world come from France. I would be willing to put money on it. I tell you.
Mm. I, as a Frenchman, I couldn't disagree with you. There's you know far more than me. I've eaten half my meals out of a tin can in a field during my life. So sitting on a chair is luxury. Good evening, Crit, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us. Absolute pleasure. I hope we can bring you a bit of joy and relaxation for the time you're here this evening.
And they say, well, if you won't take the bet, I will at least settle my own curiosity. And he'll beckon over. Is it the same member of the serving staff, or are they kind of like doing? Do you have someone assigned to your table?
You can. So
they generally do the rounds.
The Zeppelin has a crew manifest of 36. Of course, half of those will be you'll never see. They'll be sort of engineers. They'll be in the front. But it does still leave about a good sort of 10, 12 just to serve you, to cook, to serve, to sort of turn down the rooms and stuff. If you want to get the same guy, you can get the same guy. He's there, or you can motion to someone that's closer. It's totally up to you. They're all sort of they're always moving around, filling drinks and creating a good vibe.
Yeah, cool. He'll motion to the closest member of the serving staff.
Yes, Herr Delarue. How can I help you?
Forgive me if you will. My friend and I have a small wager on, and he'll wink over at the Colonel. The chef, your head chef, they're French, no?
He sort of leans over and he says, "Between you and me, sir, and I wouldn't make a big noise of it to all our German guests, but he is indeed from the north of France, sir."
Oh, and he'll lower his voice a little bit at this moment. The north of France, you say? Tell me what is their name?
Their name, sir, is Henri Dupont. HNRI DUPONT.
Sorry, PONT. Perfect. Well, thank you for settling our wager. Please pass my compliments on to Henri. This is chef's kiss. This is a beautiful meal.
Of course, sir. Coming from you, that will mean a lot, sir. Thank you very much. And you see me, he heads to the kitchen, but via a couple of tables first, you know.
Yeah. There's no rush.
No, exactly.
You see, Colonel, a Frenchman always knows.
So I've heard, and I've been proven right tonight. Oh. Anyway, how have you found sleeping in this damn place? I'm struggling to sleep at all. It's so cold. I see you brought your bear with you.
I've grown quite accustomed to the fur at this altitude, I suppose. It is cold, it is cramped, it's...
You look more like a Parisian
If it weren't
lady.
for the scenery...
Swooshing around at times.
Don't you get any ideas? I know you and the ladies, Colonel. I tell you, if it wasn't for the setting, I would be most upset. But just look out the window, and he gestures with a big arm. It's dark, but the views are spectacular.
They certainly are. They certainly are. Now, unfortunately, I've barely been able to get sleep in my cold cabin. By the way, you're in cabin. You're cabin 7-8, by the way. You are cabin 7-8.
Yeah.
And you are sharing with a German gentleman by the name of Alexander Becker. Becker.
Wonderful.
Okay. You know that Hightower is in 5 and 6. And so this story does not surprise you, because the gentleman in with me just snores the entire night. You must have heard the man.
I was about to say the same to you, but now I fear that it might be your roommate that I'm hearing, and not my own.
No.
If they are that terrible.
These things are supposed to run quite quietly. It sounds like I'm flying in a blasted bomber. You know the man, Johnny Gilbert, from the American. They put me with a blasted American from the New York Herald Tribune. A reporter, much worse. Could you imagine 2 worse things? An American reporter, and he snores.
Three worse things.
Indeed.
What with the snoring?
Oh God. He's here to report on the flights, of course. It's such a big thing still. One day these will be everywhere and it won't be a thing, you know? There'll be thousands of Zeppelins taking people hundreds of miles in just a day or two, you know? The future. But still, now it's such news to make front pages even in America.
It seems quite seems like they're scraping the barrel, no? What is this? There must have been a handful of Trans-European flights. Trans-European flights.
There's been a few. There was last year was a lot of sort of training flights, I believe. There was a few across to the Americas and back. And then, of course, they started running some European flights. They had problem. I don't know if you ever heard. They had problem with the tail fin. Kept bursting into flames, which isn't so good when you're up in the air, of course. But they replaced it. They made it cloth instead, and it's so far so good. He taps the table as he says it.
Gaston knocks on the wooden wall.
Yeah. So far, so good, of course. But I hear, and so leans in, the rumours are that later this year they're looking at making a journey all the way around the world in this thing. And now that is big news. It's not been done before. So this is big. This is the big news right now in aviation.
In this very Zeppelin.
In this very thing, dear boy. Right, a little Gaston was here on the wall, and your name will be famous around the world in but a few months. I've heard they're even going through Tokyo, all kinds of places.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I barely can. I'm a well-travelled man, but not that well-travelled. The other side of the world. Wow. But it is big news. You know, there's some people, of course, that want it to succeed, and some people that would want it to fail. You know, there's a lot of money into this, and where there's money, there's conflicting interests. Let's put it that way.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, there's a lot of money in global travel. I can't imagine how how many cases of vintage Delarue it would cost me to circumnavigate the globe.
Oh,
regardless of the means of transportation.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine? I think that if things keep going the way they are, was it 1929 now? Another
Oh yeah.
Another 30 years of peace or so, and I think the price could really go down. Maybe anyone could travel. I don't know. It'd be amazing, amazing,
amazing. It would be amazing, but it would certainly lower the standard of conversation across dinner, and he'll gesture out towards the colonel.
You're too good to me. Good to me. Oh, too good to me.
Anyway, be damned with the journalists. They're all blood sucking swine.
Really?
And hold up his glass. Well, in my humble opinion, Colonel.
I'll
Offer him a cheers.
I'll drink to that.
Which, for anyone who doesn't watch Tony and Rudi, is ironic because Gaston ends up being a journalist.
And Colonel Whitehour ends up being an alcoholic. He never drank till he met you.
Oh, canon.
Exactly.
Please go on.
Well, now, have you heard of the man? Apparently, there's an American looking at funding, or at least partially funding, the trip. There's a gentleman by the name of Hearst, I believe. Hearst. William Hearst. So it's very important for him, of course, that this all goes very smoothly. Can you imagine how the man is a very rich man? I don't know if you've heard of him. He dabbles.
No, not in my circles.
Oh,
certainly not.
It's not in my circles.
Certainly not in France.
They say he dabbles in politics. He's a businessman and a newspaper mogul. Not the New York Herald Tribune, of course.
Not a friend of old Mr. Gilbert.
Well, Gilbert works for that Rockefeller fellow. That's really hard to say.
What?
The Rockefeller fellow.
I think you've had enough, Colonel.
No.
How many fellows?
So many fellows.
Please do go on. My apologies once again.
No. Yes, so I'm sure he's hoping for a nice quiet return. No problems. Lovely. But I must say, it's been a wonderful trip so far.
To a quiet return, I certainly hope for no dramas whilst we're this high. Raises his glass.
I'll drink to that.
You can't always say you're not much of a drinker, but you keep drinking to that.
It's growing on me, sir. Such fine. I feel like I've peaked with this wine. Everything I drink now will be worse. So I must try. I must
Everything
try
else
many
is
things.
swill.
I must try everything I can to see if I can find something so good.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
So as your conversation is continuing, another server comes over, like the fifth server you've had while you've sat there, and removes your empty plates. And he's barely gone like a minute before desserts are brought over, which is quite a treat because, of course, of the time in history it is, and partly because it is cold. They've managed to bring you a small amount of like sorbet, quite a nice sorbet, with sort of a bit of chocolate with it and stuff. It's a very delicate, very pretty looking dessert, like an amuse bouche almost. Yeah.
Very nice.
You hear a round of applause, quite a rowdy round of applause from one of the tables in the middle, which has, of course, it's got a sofa on one side, as you can see, some chairs around. So there's like 6 people sat around, and it's full of some of the German guests, and they sort of applaud as the desserts come in. They're very thrilled by that, and there's sort of a cheer from Becca, your roommate, a big huzzah, big German huzzah from him, before excitedly. So, being a man as you are from the part of France you are at the time, you do understand some German, of course. A lot of celebration. But I'll need you to make a roll, and it's going to be the first roll of the game, about an hour in. That's the way we roll, guys. That's how we role play. I want you to roll an education, please. So we're using Those Dark Places rule set, which is my favourite for writing games based off of, because it's really straightforward and allows you to do a lot with it. So Gaston has 4 main skills. He's got charisma, agility, strength, and education. And he's got a 4 in 1, a 3 in 1, a 2 in 1, and a 1 in 1. And in a check, he'll take that skill and add it to a d6. If he hits an 8 or above, it's a success. A 7 is like a partial success, and a 6 or below is a failure. Now, if something is easier, it might be that 7 is passed. If it's hard, it might be that 9 is passed. He also has some skills, and he's got 2 skills, and he's got +2 in 1, which is, we've called it Chat of All Trades, which is gleaning conversation and chatting with men and women in sort of a different social pecking order than him, I guess. Talking to the staff and all that sort of stuff. And then he's got +1 in driving, which isn't useful right now while he's eating dessert, of course.
But it will be when I start driving around the Zeppelin in my automobile.
After a few more wines. Come on.
Or at least pretending to. Mime driving. Yeah.
Could you please roll a d6 with education, please? And this is going to be an easy check, so you need to hit a 7 for full success.
Well, that's good because my education isn't great. That's a 2 + 2 is 4.
Okay. All you can tell from the group is there's some cheering and celebrating and some toasting, and they seem to have had a few drinks now. They're a bit more lathered up than you, and they are just very enjoying a party atmosphere, and it's definitely ramping up. Let's put it that way.
Gaston will fake laugh and just subtly gesture over and say to the Colonel, "The Americans, no doubt."
Well, maybe laughing at the Americans. He sort of nods over to the directly opposite you. So to the top of the picture as we're looking, the 2 seats directly opposite.
Yeah.
There's two there, and he goes, those two are the Americans. I don't know if you've spoken to them. one fellow by the name of Patrick O'Leary, and a fellow with him by the name of Tom Hank. Very, very sullen fellows. From all I can tell, apart from Johnny Gilbert, of course, the snorer, the flaming snorer, they're the only two Americans on board. And they don't really say too much. They don't say too much at all. They seem very serious and look around a lot, you know. They're not in for the entertainment.
I'll be honest, Colonel. I've never met an American in my life, but I have been led to believe that they are more the boisterous, cheering type than the solemn. But perhaps I'm ill-informed, as it would be.
Just as you say that, you see Johnny Gilbert, who is at the other single table at the top, stand up with. He's already on the shorts, halfway through a meal, and he's already on the shorts. And you hear him shout out in quite a drunken way, "Wait, another bourbon, over here, come on!" And Hightower sort of smiles at you and says, "Some are quite boisterous. No wonder he snores like a pig every night. He's on that swill."
Well, maybe it's a lesson for me that we all have our varying degrees of boisterousness.
Yes, well, I always say, what goes on in your own house is your own business. But in public, at least try and keep a facade up, you know.
Very, very British of you, Colonel, if I may say so.
I can't help where I'm from, dear friend. I can't help where I'm from.
No, not can. Neither can I. Neither can I. Who'd have thought? Hey, a Frenchman and an Englishman, comrades on a Zeppelin, halfway across Europe, raise a glass.
To the 20s, may they never end.
And then continue to tuck into his sorbet as quickly as possible before it melts.
Oh, indeed, all that talking, it's melting away.
Or before I insult anymore, before Gaston insults any more nationalities.
Exactly. Oh, insulting them by the minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick rundown of some. You've talked to some people on the flight, and you've not talked to others. I'm just going to throw some names at you now because of the people you can see doing stuff. If that's okay with you, I'm only going to do a few, but it's nice. It's nice to give you some names so I can point them out as names. So the group sat around the table, being quite boisterous, is all men, and the ones that you recognise, of course, as I said, were Alex Becker, who was in your room.
Yeah.
And then Felix. The other ones you've spoken to are Felix and Hans Huber. They are brothers, and from what you can tell, they're businessmen. You know, they've made a lot of money after the war in something. You've not gone into that, you know. Most it's been where you've been playing cards and sort of, you know, bridge and things, and a bit of chat, but not too much.
Yeah.
And there's another man who's sort of laughing a lot over there, which is Wolfgang. Good old Wolfgang.
Good name.
He is an older fellow, ruddy of complexion. The look on him that his liver is probably that of a man in his 300s by now. He himself looks about 60, but he's probably only about 48. You know, that sort of guy, large guy, full of love of life. And his laugh fills the 5x5 meter cabin. His laugh always feels it's deep and it's sort of rolling. And so on.
Nice.
They're the boisterous ones. Among the others, and there are others around, there is one married couple that you've spoken to, and that's Otto and Emma Bauer, like Jack Bauer. They're sort of sat at the table, sort of next to you, along from you at the bottom, and they're chatting and mind their own business. They've been quiet the whole time. They've sort of kept themselves to themselves. You know, they're just enjoying the trip. Married couple. You don't know too much about them. You know they're fabulously wealthy, but that's about all you know. You know the way they are, the way they portray themselves, the clothes they wear, the drinks that they order. They always know the best wine. As a wine man yourself, historically through family, you know enough about it that the things they talk about and ask for, you're like, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
and that's what you'd have had your biggest conversation about previously. So that's all you know. They're wealthy and they like wine, and can name hundreds of the best wines, you know, and all the best vineyards in France and so on. But there's other faces, of course, that you don't know really. You've not chatted to them too much. Most of the time has been, of course, with the Colonel. At this time, the leftover desserts are taken away, a bit too soon for the Colonel, who's still sort of like scooping up the last bits of his sorbet as the bowl's been taken. And it seems like they're rushing because the clock has chimed, and it's chimed 9 p.m., which you were told earlier in the day was the time for your great toast. And you see enter the room at this point, in fact, the captain, who you know, and
I was going to ask.
and the captain's name is Rudiger, Rudiger. Perhaps Rudi for short, but not as far as you're concerned.
No. Certainly not yet.
Klein, Klein. Rudiger Klein.
Rudiger Klein.
And he enters in, flanked, like it's like a wave went out as a lot of the serving staff went out, and then there's suddenly a sudden flurry of like 4 swoop past him, all with glasses of Chateau de la Rue sparkling white, all full, or sort of 2/3 full. You can't get a full glass out with the amount that's there because it's a special treat. And quickly passing them around to all the guests, who all take it. They all take it. It's a special treat, even the ones that aren't big drinkers. It's a special treat, and you can see the Bowers, of course, looking quite excited at this point. This is like one of the main reasons they're on the flight. And the captain stands there in the doorway, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed your meal, and I hope you've had a splendid day. Tomorrow morning, we're going to sit down briefly in Tangier, where we shall say goodbye to some and hello to others. And as this our last evening altogether, I wish to thank you all for being such wonderful guests on the the LZ127. It's been an absolute pleasure for myself and my crew to serve you. And it's been an absolute delight to drink the wine of Chateau de la Rue." And there's like a cheer, you know, for the whole speech. There's sort of a clap and there's some whooping from the rowdy table, some cheering and that. And he sort of smiles and nods, and he says, "Now, Herr de la Rue, if you'd be so kind to lead us in this final drink of your delightful vintage." And he looks to cede the floor to you, if you so wish.
No, I don't. Yeah, I will. Gaston nods, sort of respectfully, I guess, and walk up to where he is standing, aiming to grab a glass as smoothly as possible on the way. And he'll stand at the front and hold out his glass, and look across the room, and I'll say, "Gentlemen," and look over to the Colonel. "Hares," and he'll look over to the rowdy table. "Lovers," looking over to the couple.
There's a respectful nod.
Captains, they look over to the captain, and Americans. Raise his glass over to the journalist.
The journalist nods back.
It is. It's my pleasure to have undergone this journey with you. A journey much like my family's in making this wine. They believed in hard work, in honest fermentation, and a quality final product. All things that I see reflected in the staff, and have gesture out to the serving staff and the captain of this fine vessel, and the fine journey of which we've undergone. I would like to wish them luck on any further journeys, and raise a glass to the excitement of future trips that they may take, both close to home and further abroad. He'll raise up his glass. And what's the to Captain Klein and his fine staff.
To Captain Klein. There's sort of a big drink around, and sort of everyone sort of sips back, and there's sort of you see that the couple sip slowly and with great pleasure, looking at the legs in the glass, doing the whole thing, taking in the smell. Others that know they like the wine but aren't so knowledgeable sip it and enjoy it. And there's a few that sort of knock it back a little bit, especially the boisterous guys. A bit like, hey, down the hatch kind of thing, chug it. Which, could you roll a charisma for me, please?
Yes. As he finishes, he'll sort of go in for a hug on the captain, and he'll go to under his breath. He'll say to him, "I was going to toast to your fine vessel, but to the LZ-127 didn't have the same ring to it." And your staff are doing such a wonderful job.
Roll charisma. I'll give you a chat of all trades because he is of a different sort of status here.
Thanks. That's a 4 plus a 5 is 9.
The captain's very surprised by it, but the attitude is good, and it's a good metric to sort of accept the Gallic squeeze. And he allows it. The arm goes round, and he lets it linger a bit before backing away slightly before shaking your hand in a friendly manner. But he wouldn't bring himself to put his arm around you. Shake with one hand, the other hand over yours. It's a friendly shake. And he says, "Thank you, Herr Delarue, for your. You've been a wonderful guest, and you've been very generous. And thank you for such a fine speech. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a ship to fly."
Oh, please. Don't let me hold you back from getting us to Tangier.
Quite right too. And he heads back. As he heads back, there's a smash of glass behind you. As you turn, you see a glass has shattered amongst the boisterous table, and immediately one of them, Felix Huber, looks up at you, and then he looks up at the serving staff and quite aggressively says to one of them, "Hey, you got any more of this wine? That idiot knocked it out of my hand," sort of motioning at one of the serving staff that had accidentally knocked it out of his arm as he walked past. It's very tight in there. The serving staff looks at the empty bottle he's carrying, and he's very upset, and he shakes his head. He looks over at another serving staff. You got any? None. Then he looks to you. He's like, "How about you, Mr. Delarue?" You got any secret stash I can have? Or are you out as well? Idiot knocked it out of my hands. Your special booze.
I saw. There's no need for throwing around insults. I'm sure there's a bottle somewhere. Let me find you. Let me find you another glass. And he'll wander up past the first serving staff that he pointed at, and sort of lead him towards the kitchen area.
Mm-hmm.
And is that where they've been coming from with drinks?
Yeah, there's a cupboard of drinks and stuff in the kitchen area.
He'll lead him towards the kitchen area. If they'll come with me.
Yep, happy to go with you. Don't need a roll for that.
And he'll say, "Look, this man, he's the idiot. Quick, find me some other sparkling wine, champagne, anything. Give me the empty bottle."
Okay, the guy sort of scrabbles around. There's he can't find any of yours. He finds what you would know as a let's see what he finds. Oh, he finds what's a much inferior sparkling wine, enough that you sort of wince at the bottle. He's like, "Sorry, sir, this is the closest I've got."
Hold your apologies for now, but open it and quickly pass it to me, and just know that this brings me great pain.
Oh. The man sort of nods. He sort of
make a pop.
He's fumbling a bit. He's a bit nervous because of it's getting quite aggro-y back there. You can hear him, the guy, is sort of shouting a bit, making everyone feel really uncomfortable. And he sort of handshakes. And he sort of gets the foil off, and gets the wire off, and sort of shaking and sort of tries to sort of ease the pop. He gets sort of a tea towel and sort of wraps it around it, sort of twists it so it's not too noisy.
No, as loud as possible.
Oh, okay, sir. He sort of eases and he makes it as loud as possible. Pings across. There's sort of a shower of sparkling white, low quality sparkling white arcs across, splashes into the ground by your feet. You can smell the low quality.
Gaston will grab the bottle and pour it into the empty bottle of Delarue, and feel his ancestors spin in his grave, in their graves.
Roll an agility for me, please.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's a 6 + 4. It's a 10.
You pour it well. You get the angle sort of right. There is always a danger that if you just pour it any old how, it's just going to go everywhere and you'll lose most of it. But you managed to get it in quite well. Are you going to try and fill it, or are you just going to half fill it, or enough for a glass? What's your thinking?
He'll get as much in as possible because they've just had a pop. So we've just opened a new bottle, right? So he will try and fill it.
Roll another agility, then we'll see how much you've got it in, and it's going to go in
2 rolls.
It's going to go in looking legit. Let's see.
Oh, sorry, Luke.
Well, that's
I
good.
kind of feel bad. Well, I know, but it'd be a great fail for storyline.
Are we the only stream that makes rolls on filling bottles of champagne with inferior wine? It fills up pretty much there, apart from the bit that he sort of sparkled off. But you could explain that on the pop, of course. It's a very common thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's mostly full. It's looking good. You managed to just wipe around the edge so that it sort of all looks legit, and yeah, it looks pretty good inside.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's a similar colour to yours. It's not as rich a colour, of course. It's a bit paler, but the guy's been drinking,
Yeah. Gaston will say, quick, an empty glass, a fresh glass.
He fumbles around and he manages to find an empty glass for you and hands it over.
Thank you. Please, just try and avoid them for the rest of the evening. And Gaston will walk out, pouring the bottle into the empty glass and making a big show of it as much as he can. And he'll approach the table and leaning close to was it Felix?
It was Felix, yes.
And he'll say, Herr Huber.
Yeah.
A glass and the rest of the bottle for your table. Just keep it quiet. And he'll look around at the rest of the guests after making such a big entrance.
roll a charisma.
This is the last. I mean, I don't know what to do. That's
good.
another
This is good.
It's a different dice.
No, this is good. Never be ashamed of succeeding.
No, but
Huber sort of smiles at you, and sort of everyone else. They've experienced him. He's been a bit aggro-y, like since he's been on. He's been quick to get excited, and there doesn't seem to be too much upset. You notice a bit of disappointment from the couple, who would have probably loved the top up because they actually care about the wine. Whereas this is an ape quaffing whatever is available. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they can live with it, and they're probably too nervous to confront him anyway. The Colonel rolls back in his chair laughing at the whole situation, which probably doesn't help anything, but he can't help himself.
Nor should he.
No, exactly. The reporter's suddenly gone very quiet and is paying quite a bit of attention. He's sort of almost gone into like work mode. And the two sullen guys, the Americans by the window, and you're getting a lot from this roll because you rolled very high. They are watching everything intently. They are like gazing, very heavy gazes at the table at what's going on.
At the table in general, or at what Gaston's been doing?
At the table, from what you can tell, not necessarily at you, but at that group of guys. You were in there for a while, of course, pouring it. They're watching the situation, and as you back away a little bit, their eyes haven't followed you. They're following the guys at the table. They're watching what they're up to, very clearly. As you back away, Felix nods at you, a bit of a slurred thanks, and he holds the glass up in the air as if to like show off that he's got a whole full glass. He's got his whole full glass, and he only had like a dribble spilt, so he's feeling like the cock of the walk right now. And as he holds it up, and as he holds it up to look at it, one of the other of the group, good old Wolfgang, jokingly sort of digs his hand into his side in sort of an aggressive tickle, causing Felix to startle and drop the glass to the floor, smashing that glass all over the edge of the table and on the floor. And in that instant, Felix turns on Wolfgang and goes into a rage at him. It's like, what are you doing? And like immediately goes for like his throat with both hands. And a scuffle starts around that table. With Alex and Hans trying to pull the two apart. Trying to pull them apart. The couple that trying to like just avoid looking at when there's grief, when you're somewhere and you just look away. I always do this, so don't get involved. When we've been at the pub, there's been look away. Just carry on your
make conversation about anything.
Look out the window, make conversation. They're doing that. The quieter group directly behind them, there's a couple there You know they're a couple, but you're not spoken to them. A few other people, very sort of official looking, sort of rich people, look disgruntled, concerned, and try and shuffle away from the situation. But they're not drinking; they're watching the situation. The colonel is just laughing riotously right now. He's just enjoying it all implode. He's gone for the chaos approach. I think he's just embraced chaos. And it depends what you want to do, I guess, Gaston, in this moment.
At this moment, being a reasonably young, quite sure of himself young man, I suppose Gaston he'll put on his best booming voice, which I'm not going to do because it doesn't happen. There was a gentlemen, if you wish to berate and make each other's lives more difficult, then be my guest. But please don't be so disrespectful to the last of the Dillaroo vintage, to my family's blood, sweat, and tears.
Roll a charisma for me, please. It's going to be a harder check anyway, because they are full in the fight right now. But it's worth a go.
It's a 3 plus a 3 is a 6.
Okay. You're shouting. It's sort of picked up by a couple, and Hans is trying to calm his brother down, going, "You heard the man. You heard the man. It's this is like his stuff." And you can see the bottle sort of wobbling on the table. Any second to go over. He's like, "Oh, God, you gotta stop!" But Felix is having none of it, and he sort of picks up a glass and goes to throw it at Wolfgang, because he sort of pushed him away, and he sort of goes to throw a glass at him, which Wolfgang dodges, which means it's now coming at you, and you need to throw an agility for me, please.
That's a 2 plus 4 is a 6. Not driving anything, am I?
No, sadly not at this time. An ambulance soon, by the sounds of it. You don't see the glass too late because it is because big Wolfgang was in the way, and he dodges at the last minute, and so it's a meter away from you before you see it, and you try and move, and the glass smashes into your a glancing blow on the side of your head, and you drop to your knees. And you hear a scream from Emma Bauer. You hear a scream from her, and you hear the colonel. The colonel stopped cackling at this point. You hear him stand up and go into full military bellowing at everyone, shouting all words under the sun. And as you sort of reach in, you sort of put your hand to your head. As you pull it away, you see blood on your hand, and that's where we're going to take our break for now with a blooded Gaston Dillaroo.
Bloody Gaston.
Cool. So we're going to take a break there, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back in 5 minutes. We just need a sort of a comfort break, a costume change, I believe it's called. And we should be back in 5 minutes. So please hang around. Take a break yourself if you need it. Charge your glasses. Go to the loo. Grab a snack, whatever you want. And we would love to have you back with us for the continuing adventures of Gaston. So we'll see you all in a few. Hello everyone, we're back on board. What excitement we're having. Um, we're back on the Graf Zeppelin. I've just realised there's something I need to do, which is very embarrassing because that's not very helpful at all. I'll tell you what, let me do this for you all, and then you'll probably lose us for a second. But if I do that, for those of you that joined us, we found out that it was just going to be the two of us quite late-ish today. Let's put it that way. And I'm a man who loves his putting some graphical stuff in. Whether it's good or not is for you to decide. But it does mean that I've had to ping around a little bit. But here we go. Okay, so we're back where we left our hero Gaston. And it's nice to call Gaston our hero because he's not normally one of the two heroes in these tales. Where we left, it's nice, isn't it? How's it feeling being the hero?
It is nice, yeah. Well, I mean, he hasn't done anything heroic yet. He's had a conversation with the colonel, narrowly missed someone getting straight up murdered on a Zeppelin because somebody knocked over their wine, and then proceeded to set up somebody else knocking over their wine, and who knows how it's going to end. But, you know, I'm feeling positive. Not heroic, but definitely positive.
Positivity is quite a heroic thing, I feel. It's one of the more heroic
yeah, maybe it's more of a spin on, you know, me than Gaston. Let's not drag him down with me.
No, it is very human. So where we left it, dear viewers, is we're flying on the Graf Zeppelin. It is late at night. In the morning, at some point, probably mid-morning, late morning, it will make landing in Tangier. And a few passengers will alight, including Gaston's new friend, good old Colonel Hightower. And a few new potential friends will come aboard, and it will make its return flight across Europe back into Germany. It's still in its process of making European flights before. They don't know this yet, but we do, dear people living in the future. It's going to make a big round the world trip later in the year, and it's going to become a very, very, very famous Zeppelin indeed. On board so far, we know there's a lot of Germans. We know there's the British colonel. We know there's our French friend Gaston. We know there's an American reporter, a couple of swarthy, serious-looking Americans, some quieter characters, and some we haven't even met yet. But they're all squished on board this tiny space that can carry 24. There's 24 booked in, but there's not quite 24 on board yet. As I said, some will leave and some will come on. That's the plan tomorrow, late morning. Now, where we left it was a bit of a pickle. You see, Gaston had been invited on board because he is the son of a very famous chateau which was destroyed during World War I and had some wonderful vintage sparkling whites because of the region it's in. Absolutely wonderful wine. You just can't get any more. And so some has been given to the passengers during the trip, and tonight was the finishing of the bottles, where everyone got to have one more glass, and Gaston toasted to the Zeppelin, to the crew, to everything, and everyone had a lovely drink. Except, I'm afraid, for the rowdy bunch on that central seat as we're looking at it on the right-hand side, in the middle of the dining hall. There a bunch of boisterous Germans sat, and sadly, Felix Huber, one of two Huber brothers, the glass was knocked out of his arm by a serving staff. The last of the wine, or so we thought, because Gaston snuck into the kitchen and, apologising to all his ancestors, poured, quite frankly, an embarrassingly lower quality plonk into the bottle and offered it to Felix as a glass of the good stuff. Perhaps fortunately for Gaston, the glass was knocked out of Felix's hand by a friendish of Felix, the swarthy Wolfgang, who jabbed him in the ribs for a laugh, sending the glass smashing to the ground. And a fight erupted. Before Gaston could get out of the way, a glass thrown by Felix aimed at Wolfgang instead smashed Gaston in the side of the head, leaving him blooded and glass all around below him as he's on his hands and knees. his beloved colonel shouting and screaming and swearing at those getting leery. And as he's looking down at the dripping blood in his head, he can hear a scuffle happening. And we'll head back to, I'm calling him our hero.
Bold words, bold words.
You've got to earn them now.
Gaston removes the hand from his head and looks at the blood and stands back up to his feet quite quickly, grabs the bottle off the table, assuming that is all right, and says, "The gentlemen, if you can't behave in the manner of befitting to my family's vintage, I will take this and I will bid you good night."
Could you roll an agility for me, please, before you flounce out?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what you're doing.
That's a 4+4 is 8.
Okay, that's good. As you stand up, you feel momentarily lightheaded, of course, the shock and the blood loss. It's not massive blood loss, but it's always shocking to see a blood from a head wound of your own.
Yeah.
But you manage to get the words out. You don't know if they've been heard or not. Probably not by those in the middle. But the couple behind you, the quieter couple, Otto and Emma Bauer, half get to their feet as you sort of stagger past, offering to help you. Herr Delarue, can we help you back? Are you sure we can get the first aid kit, get the crew member with the medical crew to see to your wound?
No. I thank you. I'm quite all right. I just I've had enough of such behaviour. But thank you. Enjoy your evening.
I feel our evening is probably over, and I feel that we may too be retiring to our rooms. Otto sort of looks at his pocket watch. He says, yes, by this time, it's sort of like 9. It's about 9:40. So by this time, the beds will be turned down. So yes, I think, shall we, Emma? And they sort of head out even before you. They've decided they don't want this violence, and they scurry out in front of you.
On the way out, Gaston will he'll attempt to walk close to a member of the serving staff.
Yep.
To say something under his breath to them, and just say, please, if you would bring a bottle to my room. Any. He looks at the bottle in his hand and shakes his head a bit. Any red will do. Buries his head in his hand and makes his way to the washroom.
Yes.
The washroom.
The washroom. Yes. You've got two washrooms. So as you walk down, I'll explain the corridors you're walking down because we've not gone down here yet, have we? And I'd like to paint a picture for you. As I've said, everything's wallpapered in exactly the same stripy but intricately striped dark green and sort of gold wallpaper. There's some sort of there's some tan in that as well. As you go down, the corridor's quite narrow because they're trying to have as much, 6 meters wide at its widest, and so to have space in the room, the hallway's only 1.5 meters. You can sort of ease past people like that, Up ahead of you, you see the couple go past. I'm just checking my notes. They head into. That's why our pictures vanish, everyone, by the way, because if we go out of roll 20, it takes out the stupid picture. They head into 20. They go into 1920, which is next to the washroom at the top as we're looking at it.
Yeah.
No, sorry, they don't. They go into 9 and 10. Sorry, I've misread that. 9 and 10. Does that make sense? So we're flashing around here.
Yeah.
So I'm having to cut between things. So they go
next to
9.
me.
They go next to you. Yeah, so that's nice. 1920 is where the Huber brothers are. Sorry, 1920. No. And you can still hear they're fighting and they're sort of smashing behind you. And you sort of head past your rooms. You heading to the washroom?
Yes, he will.
Okay, it's a long corridor. You can hear when you get past here, it gets noticeably a few degrees cooler. You're glad for your slightly blooded fur, and you can. This is where you can start to smell the gas, which you've grown used to.
Mm.
And it's very quiet. Once they go into their room, it's very quiet down there. Even though you're hearing the rowdiness from up there, it's like the door swings shut behind you, and it's a little bit quieter.
He'll enter the washroom, and does it lock behind you?
Yeah. You can lock it behind you.
He'll lock the door behind him and head over to find a sink somewhere and wash away the blood and clean up his face a little bit, splash some cold water. Does the window open?
No, the window does not open.
Quick question about, I suppose, the ship in general. Do any of the windows that Gaston will be familiar with open at all?
Oh, I need to do some checking. Bear with me a
Oh,
second.
sorry, Luke.
No. This is a good question. It's very important. I should have known you'd throw a spanner in. I'll tell you what. While I check, I'm gonna make you have a roll anyway. Okay? Because
Yeah, sure.
Because I want you to
Even it
roll.
out.
Yeah, exactly. We've both got to do work here.
Yeah.
I want you to roll an education, please, about your wound.
It's a 6 plus 2 is an 8.
6 plus 2 equals 8.
Which feels like it's got to be the last one of the night.
You're doing very well, to be fair. I'm very proud of you.
Good
Gaston's
dice.
showing he's much more skilled than Tony and Rudi. So you look closely. You sort of pick out, as you wash it, a few little bits of glass fall out, but nothing big. And from what you can tell, it was more of a glancing blow than anything. There's sort of a flesh wound that looks very. It shows proud very quickly. It gushes very quick. But a bit of pressure applied to it, wash it out, bit of pressure applied, and you're going to be okay. There's no deep gash there.
Okay.
And as you sort of play around with it, sort of push it and dab it and get a towel on it and that, you sort of take the towel away and you notice that each time you do it, the blood's not gashing so much. As you're doing that, you're thinking back and that the windows in the main dining room and the bedrooms. The bedroom ones do open a little bit. The dining room ones do open quite nicely. When you're in flight, they allow them to open. But yours just a little bit, just for a little bit of air,
Yeah.
But it's cold, so a lot of people choose not to. So.
Gaston will think twice about his idea, and he'll look at the bottle of fake De La Rue and sort of bow his head a little bit and just say, "Oh, Mama, Papa, I'm sorry," and he'll just pour it down the sink once he's finished clearing up his wound, and then take the empty bottle back to his room.
Okay. Could you roll an education for me, please, this time as you're walking down there?
It's a 5 plus 2 is a 7.
Cool. This is one thing that I struggle with a little bit with the rules. But the thing I like about Orbital Blues is you get to roll an observation roll. And that's not such a thing in here. That's when I tend to get you to do an education, because it's an education and understanding of the situation. I guess if it's in the middle of a fight, I might get you to roll something else, But
Yeah.
as you walk down it, from listening and understanding the sounds that you've been on for a day or two, it does sound like the scuffle's potentially died down a bit, and there's a few more voices bossing the situation. You can sort of make out the captain's voice. You can make out Hightower's voice. You can't make out the words, and you can make out a couple of German voices quite loudly responding. and but all the smashing and breaking seems to have quietened down. But no one is entering the corridor as it stands.
Gaston will cool himself slightly, I suppose, in given the situation, and he'll open the door, stick the empty bottle underneath his pillow,
Yep.
And look around for a bottle of red. Is there a bottle of red in there yet?
Yes. So when you went to the washroom, the staff are incredibly attentive, and there's been a bottle of red and a glass, and sort of like a small little box, that sort of size. If you can see my hands, what are we talking, like a few inches each way, with
Yeah.
with embossed, courtesy of Graf Zeppelin, LZ127 Graf Zeppelin, printed on it next to it as well, and that's all there.
Just rolls off the tongue.
I know it's the thing. It's needed a nickname, really.
Yeah. He'll cock his head slightly and put the box in his pocket.
Okay.
Leave the bloody furs, pick up the glass and bottle, and head back to the dining room. He suddenly remembers that he just abandoned his new dear friend, the Colonel, without even saying goodnight. And he should probably, now that the assault upon his ancestry has somewhat calmed down, he should probably at least bid the Colonel a good night, and he'll head back to see what's happening quickly.
Quite right, Crit. Quite right. Gaston, you got to look out. You got to look out for the Colonel. You know what happens with him at the end, in 8 years, in like 8 years' time.
That plus, I just want to throw you a little bit of a curve.
Poor Colonel.
Just
as you open the door, it is the general vibe is quiet, like I say, except for a bit of shouting. The captain is standing sort of in the middle of the room, raging. There are staff that are sweeping up at broken glass. There's liquid on the floor. There's blood. There's patches of blood, not just yours. There's a few other patches of blood, and it's a bit of a scene. The quieter table have sort of in the middle have sort of pulled themselves. They've all got up from that table, and they've sort of gone to sit at the table that you and the Colonel left, and the table that the Bowers left at the bottom of the pictures. We can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And the two quiet Americans, Tom Hank and Patrick O'Leary, have are standing there, right up with them, looking quite like they're part of it. You know, there's some blood on them. That their fists look a bit scuffed, and Felix is being held quite tightly by one of the men that had been sitting at that table that seemed quite quiet, whose name you only know of his name now that his name's important. You've never spoken to him, but you know his name is Max Koch, Koch, Max Koch.
Max Koch.
K-O-C-H.
So much Koch. All the Koch.
So much Koch.
Max Koch.
Max Koch.
One of the quiet Americans.
Max Koch is a German. He has like his arm, one of his arms, like around the guy's like from behind, around like his throat, upper chest, holding it back, and like with his other arm, he's like restraining his other arms, like he's got it looped around the guy's arms behind, and he's like holding it in. He sort of got him held really tight. And every now and again, Felix is trying to move, and his face is quite blooded, and he's sort of still got quite a wild look on him. But he's sort of been held there, sort of twitching and trying to fight, while the captain is sort of like tearing him a strip, and telling him, I do not expect this behaviour on a Zeppelin, especially in front of ladies. We've got ladies present. You've sent our special guest to his room. The colonel's giving it all this. The captain's trying to calm the colonel down a little bit. The colonel's gone well into military officer mode, and he's trying to calm him down a little bit. The reporter, you can see, is sat there like he's got his notebook out. And he's gone full future Gaston. The notes
I was
are
going to
flying.
ask.
The notes are flying thick and fast. And that's what, as you enter the room, that's what's seen.
Gaston will walk quite poignantly straight up to the colonel. Colonel, my apologies. I realise I stormed out in quite the scene. Please, will you join me for a nightcap, at least?
Oh, Gaston! He looks a bit surprised to see you back, I guess. Oh, my dear sir! How are you? Not too... Oh, 'tis a flesh wound, at least, sir. 'Tis a flesh wound. Oh, that blight... Oh.
No,
I put one on him myself, sir. Put one on him myself. He deserved it for what he did to you. Disgraceful behaviour. Some men just can't take their drink. That's why I never touch it, you know, sir. I never touch it.
Don't worry about this. So I was more worried about the more worried about the waste of a fine wine.
Ah, of course. But I thought these whispers. I thought there was no more Chateau de la Rue left, sir.
Well, come with me, and I shall explain all.
The colonel looks over the scene, sees that everything's sort of settling down. He says, it's probably for the best anyway. Come on, I'll share a nightcap with you. Why not?
I'm getting quite can I attempt to lead him to the Gaston look at his hands and say, but alas, I have but one glass, and attempt to lead him towards the entrance way in the kitchen to find another glass, or to find a member of the serving staff. To get another glass.
You can. Could you roll for me to how it plays out? Charisma with chat of all trades, please.
Oh, that's very kind of you. That's a 5 plus a 5 is a 10.
The captain is not really paying too much attention. He's focused on like 6 main figures, you know. And so as you scurry past, the serving staff scurrying backwards and forwards with dustpans full of broken glass, rubbish bins, sort of trying to clear things up, a mop and so on. And you catch one just by sort of rushing out of the kitchen with another sort of bag to clear things up.
And Gaston will hold up his bottle and his glass and say, "Please, sir, another glass for my friend here."
Of course, Herr Delarue. Help yourself. Sorry. I'm very busy at the minute, but please, in the kitchen. Oh, you've benned.
Aye.
Keep talking. He always comes back. Ben always comes back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. That's
as long as I don't need to.
No, you're good.
To reconnect, he'll sort of tut a bit in the colonel's direction and say, "Well, please come make yourself at home," and gesture to the kitchen around him, and he'll start rooting through cupboards for glasses.
I don't know what glass goes with wine. Red wine, never drunk the stuff. He pulls out a tumbler. Is this what we drink red wine in? Then a highball glass. Is it?
Well, that would depend entirely on which country we're over. As long as we're not over France, a tumbler is perfect. Please grab one for me as well.
The colonel grabs a couple, and then he sort of makes sure no one's looking, and he grabs. He sort of goes over to the freezer section, like the cool section, and he reaches inside and he comes out with. You see his sort of elbows moving. and so he sort of stuffs the glasses into like his waistcoat pockets and things, and he comes out with 2 small bowls with sorbet in as well, with a little scampi teenage smile on his face. Come on, come on. It looks like we're set for the evening, dear friend.
Gaston will put his red wine glass down on the side and grab the 2 tumblers. Quick, tuck them away, and he'll sort of gesture underneath a jacket. To my room.
Splendid. Sounds like a plan, sir. Sounds like a plan.
And
yeah, you get out of that room, no problem.
Yeah, and then head towards 7 and 8, cabin 7-8.
Yep, perfect. So again, it's all calming down in there. There's a lot of angry faces, a lot of stern captain still, and you sort of pick your way through and back to your cabin, which is empty until you get in it.
And then what is it?
It's full. It's a very small cabin. So you have there is a sofa in there, but whereas before that was sort of a living room area with a desk and a chair, it's much tighter now because you have the bunks that are down on your side to the front of ship on the right hand side, and then you have the sofa to the left, as you can see, the small couch, and then the writing desk at the bottom by your window. So there's just enough room. Generally, you could probably, one person would sit on the lower bunk, which is your bunk, and someone could sit on the couch opposite each other. And if you're opposite each other, your knees would touch, but diagonally, you've got a little bit more space. You could both sit sort of with the table next to you if you wish to have a place to put.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Please, Colonel, take a seat, and he'll gesture towards the sofa and pop the glasses down and pour some, hand one to the Colonel.
Ah, splendid. I think I prefer this way round. My room is like the mirror, and I just can't get used to it. I can't get used to it. This is tickety boo.
Well, Colonel, I don't know what I'm going to do once you disembark tomorrow. I'll be left all alone with these ruffians. And he rubs his head a bit, raises his glass, and takes a drink.
Oh, don't worry about me, sir. Don't worry about me. You could always come and join me. I always need a young man to help me around town in Tangiers. There's some fine places to relax, some fine bars. We can have a smoke, have a nice tea, speak to the ladies. Lots to do.
But alas, Colonel, I do not smoke.
Ah, well, I can always teach you, dear friend. You taught me how to drink wine. It's the least I can do, sharing each other's vices,
He'll let out a big boisterous laugh at that, and raise a glass, drink some more.
Splendid. Don't worry about that, dear friend. Don't worry about that. Those gentlemen, I don't know what came over them. Too much booze, I would imagine. Just so loud and rowdy. The captain was raging when he came out.
I can imagine.
A way to ruin a fine trip. With ladies on board as well, dear friend. Can you imagine? In a way, I'm glad the glass hit you and not one of the ladies. Could you imagine?
It's what? Pardon my culture, but what do you English say? It's just not croquet.
Crickets. I wouldn't expect a Frenchman to understand, of course. It's just not crickets. It's a fine sport. Maybe I'll teach you one day. If you come and join me in Tangiers, we'll make a team together. I'm sure there's something we can bring to the country.
I don't know what many of those words mean, but it sounds splendid.
It is splendid. I tell you what, dear friend. Yes, please.
No.
No, please, no. I'm just wittering on.
Oh, you are a gentleman, sir. Tell me
Yeah.
those two serious looking Americans.
Mm.
Did they step in? They looked very close to the action when I returned.
Oh, my dear friend, they were the two that pretty much brought an end to it. They waded straight in. I would, but being of an older persuasion, I feel it's a young man's job to break up fights now. So I threw about the orders, of course, and I tried to calm it down the way I would.
A colonel of
But
your stature.
give me, but if I was 15 years younger, of course I'd have been elbows deep, dear boy. But no, they charged in with a lot of excitement and fists flying and pulled them apart, and there was a lot of seriousness among. They were very well trained, it seemed, dear boy. Definitely military men back in the day. And then after that, Mister Kosh, as you saw, I think when you came in, just grabbed hold of Felix and his colleague, who I think he shares a room with him. Manfred Meyer, his name, Meyer, Meyer. For a short time, he had Mr. Schneider as well, but they seemed to have a quiet word, and he sort of let him go a little bit. But something, yeah, very strong, swarthy types, seem to
Mm.
carry a lot of weight to them in behaviour and word.
Ruffian types rather than and he gestures at the colonel rather than the more precision tools of the military. Would you say?
Hmm. Well, you know, I would almost feel like Mayor and Kosh felt a bit more private security in a way, almost more like business goons as opposed to military men, if you know what I mean. They knew what they were doing. They weren't your man about town throwing fists and smashing bottles in a pub, of course. They seem to know how to handle themselves in a trained way, but not in a military way. Very interesting. Very interesting. More than just a man on the street, for sure.
Hmm. And the same with the Americans, you would say,
The Americans,
not
they
your
seem
everyday.
no. They were definitely military men. I would say the way I recognise them. American men, we fought alongside them at times, sort of shared a trench from time to time, and I recognised the training, if you know what I mean. They definitely had a history in the military, I'd say.
They paid good attention to the orders of their superiors.
Well, they
Again,
didn't.
gesture towards the colonel.
They didn't pay any bloody attention to me. I told them to smash him over the head with a bottle.
Well, I suppose that's less military issue than they're probably used to.
So true, different, so true. Ah, what a day, eh? What a day.
Uh, alas, dear Colonel, I fear to bring it to an end, as I know
Ah,
what tomorrow brings, but I am feeling rather weary from this blow, and I must please take the rest of the bottle. I must bid you a good
ah,
night.
don't stop
A
with your
bonne
drinking
nuit.
habits. Oh, bon nuit to you too, my dear friend. And he mumbles about starting bad habits as he takes the bottle out and half trips over by the little step by the door and steadies himself and
Oh,
well, it's okay. Okay.
I'll pat him on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Thank you for your company as always, Colonel.
No.
It's been a pleasure.
You've been a highlight on the trip. I'm glad I came. And he sort of staggers the 3 steps down before thumping into the door. Takes a few attempts to sort of open the door. And then he gets in. And then you hear a loud thump as he sort of collapses into his bed.
Gaston will he'll prepare for bed. I suppose he'll get ready and eventually just lie back, his head in his hands, and contemplate the evening, drift off to sleep.
Cool. And as you say, you sort of finally drift off about. Because you've gone to bed quite early, of course, and Colonel's happy to because he's been drinking and he's not used to it. So it sort of hit him quite hard. He's mixing the grains, and then he's gone on to the wines.
He's not the only one that hit quite hard.
Yeah, that's true. Quite literally in some cases. And you hear him snoring lightly, which you've heard the whole, the trip, but you've not brought it up to him because, of course, his room is much worse. And so you'd gone in, and it's by about, you'd guess, about 10:30. A nice early night, you're asleep. And you stir slightly, maybe half an hour later, when the door opens, and then who you'd assume is your bunkmate, Alexander Becker, clambers up above, and you sort of, as you're sort of half asleep, you hear sort of that groaning around, the squeaking, and sort of the easing of the bunk above. There's a bit to and fro, and then you sort of the door's shut, and you fall asleep. And you sleep well, and you sort of come to at and you come to as light is streaming in through the small window, and you're hit with a chill, and it appears that while you've been sleeping, your window has been opened slightly, and you get a very big early morning chill through that, combined with the light, and of course the need for toilet after drinking awakens you.
Classic.
Of course, it's how we all feel these days.
Without making too much noise, he'll get out of bed and, I suppose, peer over into the top bunk and see if Alexander is up.
Alexander Becker is up, so you would assume that it was him that opened the window. You see that there's not much space, so sort of you're very much living out of a suitcase, but you notice that on his suitcase, yesterday's clothes appear to have been sort of shoved in. So you'd assume, he's up and he's done his stuff and he's started his day.
In that case, he will head to the window and look out the window. See whereabouts they are, assuming they're still. Sorry.
Yeah, you're very much overland now, which is quite nice because when you, like I say, when you woke up, when you went to sleep, you were over the sea. Tangier, of course, is Morocco, and you've sort of hit North Africa, and you're sort of you're soon doing a bit of a loop because you're coming over Portugal, but you've sort of done, it's not been direct because they're making quite a nice trip of it. So the idea is you've hit Africa a bit more to the east, so that then it's a bit more picturesque. So then you'll sweep along the route, taking in that coast of North Africa and around to Morocco for the morning. And it's lovely. It's quite different to what you're used to. But when you put your head there, you get a bit more warmth. Sort of the Zeppelin turns slightly and a bit more sun comes. And it looks really pretty.
He'll pause for a brief moment at the window, remember his head and rub it and check his hand to make sure there's no bleeding caused by rolling over or movement or anything during the night, but just admire the view for a brief moment of Africa.
It is lovely. There's sort of there's a bit of green. There's a bit of the colours are a bit mixed. You know, you've got a bit of almost not deserty, but much more sort of paler earth, patches of grass that you can see, some trees, some greenery, and then sort of in the distance you can see a city. You know not what city it is, but you sort of you move. You're getting towards it within seconds. The Zeppelin moves at a decent enough speed, you know.
Hmm.
And it just smells different. Everything smells different here. You know, it's nice. It's a really nice way to wake up. A real highlight of travelling by such a thing, really.
Yeah. And he'll take a deep breath and
Get real high.
yeah, precisely. He'll take a deep breath of the air by the window, and he already is real high because
Yes,
he's in the zone, well, reasonably high.
reasonably high. Yeah.
But then he'll head to his case and he'll pick out some clothes for the day and take them to the washroom and get ready and briefly drop his stuff back off in the cabin and head through to the dining area for what he assumes will be breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you walk, you sort of pass a couple of people in the washroom. It's not important who, you know. There's a bit of a morning from a couple of bleary eyes.
Good day, good day.
A couple of cabins are sort of the doors left open, and already the crew are in, folding up the beds. They're sort of on it. They're like, and you've noticed it as soon as two people from the same room end up in the sort of the dining room slash lounge. Crew are
Mm,
immediately in there to sort of fold up their room and turn it into their own sort of personal lounge area, you know. So you see
yeah.
there's a couple with crew members already folding. There's a couple that rooms that still have closed doors, suggesting at least someone's still in there. It's just that nice morning vibe, you know. It's just there's a bit of life to it. Um, and so are you going? Do you say you were going through into the dining room?
Yes. The morning after a good Delarue.
The morning after a good Delarue. Could you please roll for me a? I'm going to go for. I'm going to make you do two different ones, please. To get
Mm,
to get, I want to catch the vibe. There's two different vibes I want you to catch. So I want you to roll an education, and I want you to roll a charisma, please.
okay. Let's go education first. Which is the 3 plus the 2 is a 5.
Okay.
And then we go charisma, which is a 3 plus a 3 is a 6.
Okay. Um,
Alas.
alas, you're still a bit bleary. You're still a bit tired. You're still
Uh,
sort of a bit. Maybe the too much Delarue and too much cheaper red has sort of left you a bit.
can never have too much Delarue.
But that is very true. There's not enough left to have too much Delarue, unfortunately.
In fact, that would have been, if we were in the modern day of advertising.
You can never have too much Delarue. Don't make me make a graphic for the next episode, because you know I will.
I do.
um, as you go through, what you can tell is, from what you can tell, the room has been put back pretty much as you left it last night. Every mealtime, they move things around a little bit to sort of create a little bit of change, but
Mm,
um, the tables on each by the windows are still the same. The windows are open, so you're getting that nice new air coming in, that fresh morning air, clear out the stank of last night. You know, it's a bit chilly, but it's really fresh in there. It's really light in there. It's really quite nice. Um, the central tables have been moved around a bit. It's quite noticeable, and I'll let you with that roll at least, that a couple of the chairs appear to be replacement chairs. They're not quite up to the high quality Art Deco chairs that were there before. They're sort of a lower quality wood, and that stands out a little bit. Um,
mm.
and but and there appears to be some stains on the carpet, but other than that, you know, you can't tell too much. They've done a pretty good job at making it look pretty decent. With the charisma roll, there's some people out there already. There's sort of a mishmash of people. The Bowers are out there, sat at their usual table. They turn around and sort of to look to you as you enter. The Colonel, of course, is at your usual table from last night, um, with a big grin on his face as he sees you and sort of starts to wave you over. He looks a little bit worse for wear. He's not quite as well dressed up as he would normally be. You know, his tie's a little bit skew. His waistcoat's a bit dishevelled. He looks a little bit pale.
Beginning of the end.
Exactly, the poor man. You look at his table. He's got the hair of the dog there to see him through. Someone's obviously suggested that's a good idea. You've got the other married couple, who are Franz and Maria Schaefer. They've picked a quiet table across the other side. They want to stay to themselves. And you've got the reporter there. Johnny's there. You got Tom and Patrick are there. In fact, generally the main ones that aren't there are the rowdy German guys that cause most of the trouble. They're the ones that are most obvious by their absence at this time. But you know, goodness knows what time they went to bed anyway.
Yeah. Okay, cool. The tables. You say were we lower right?
You were lower right, yes, next to the entrance.
And lower left was that?
That's the.
Who is that?
That is the couple. That's Otto and Emma Bauer.
Otto and Emma.
Who, as you enter, Otto sort of stands up and hurries over to you, and he says, "I heard Delarue. How are you this morning? I hope you're okay. I'm terribly sorry about last night."
Oh, there is nothing to apologise for, my good man. I'm well, thank you. Please, would you mind if my friend and I joined you? We can move our table over. I'm sure. Have it moved over.
No, please do.
As long as we're not intruding, of course.
Oh no. A new day, a lovely morning. Let's enjoy this together.
It seems odd that we've sat so close to each other at breakfast so many mornings and not talked more.
Oh no. It's a real shame, I would say. It's nice to put this right now on the Colonel's final morning, I believe, with us. Colonel sort of nods rather blearily, dragging his Bloody Mary with him.
And Gaston will turn to the Colonel and say, "I hope you don't mind. Colonel."
Fine by me, dear boy. Fine by me. Just keep it down a little bit. Why is everyone shouting so much this morning?
And Gaston will gesture over to one of the serving staff.
Yes, sir. How can I help you?
Please, if you wouldn't mind moving the table. My friend and I can grab the chairs, but we wish to join. Wish to join the Bowers over there.
Of course. What they do is they sort of pull the tables almost into the middle space, and they sort of so they put the tables together between the two windows. So there's two chairs either side, with the window each side. So it's quite a nice little four seated together at the bottom. Could you roll a charisma at this point, please?
Yeah. As they're moving the tables, Gaston will turn to the couple and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for them to move your tables. I just wanted to we could tag onto yours and not disrupt your breakfast. That's a 1 plus the 3 is a 4.
Emma sort of is looking a bit sort of frail and pale and nervous. Not really, but you know what I mean, like a bit edgy this morning. And so she just sort of smiles waterily. She's warmly at you, but a bit waterily, a bit waterily. And she sort of smiles and nods and she says, "No, it's no problem. It's no problem. Herr Delarue, it's no problem at all. It'll be lovely to take the air and enjoy breakfast with you both."
Tell me, how are you both after last night's kerfuffle? Did you rest well?
Otto leans forward to you. He says, "Wow, we rested well. Delarue, we rested well. It was you we were concerned about. After you fell and smashed your head so hard, we were concerned about you, but going straight to bed like that, everyone was concerned after your fall."
Please don't worry about me. It wasn't the falling. In fact, I barely hit my head at all on the falling. It was the glass that was the problem.
Ah, the people can be so clumsy, Mr. Delarue, can't they?
It's I feel it was an unfortunate situation in which I found myself.
Oh, it was such a splendid evening. It was such splendid to enjoy. Sort of Emma sort of like stumbling a little bit over her words. Like such a pleasure to enjoy some Chateau Delarue. We know there won't be much left, and we feel very privileged. And it's been such a nice trip, and it was such a shame to see you leave early after such a bump to the head.
I must say I hope it's not too bold of me, but I have noticed your wine orders are immaculate. Some fine choices to accompany some fine food at every meal.
Well, Otto smiles warmly. Says, "Well, we used to run a small vineyard by the Rhine. Only a few bottles a year, really. More of a hobby than anything, but it meant we travelled a lot. We got to spend time, sampling other people's delights, inviting people over to ours, and I guess our hobby just became all encompassing in a way. We'd start doing tours, and we'd start trading wines, of course, and that's really what enabled us to come here today. As wine traders. With so much money, it's important for us to be part of these journeys. We're looking to have our wine stocked aboard the Graf Zeppelin going forwards, and any of our sister craft. So it's so important for us to sort of enjoy your wine these days, and as part of our going forward, hoping to become the wine. Not that we could ever, come close to yours. Yours is a special treat, but you've tasted the other sparkling wine, no doubt, the filth.
Mm.
Yes, we're in a deal to make sure none of that happens again. So it's been a delight.
I can't help but feel that would be beneficial to all aboard. To all aboard any Zeppelin, let alone this one. Tell me, what's the what's the name of your vineyard? Perhaps I've heard of it.
Oh, I doubt it. I doubt it. I doubt it very much. We're just well, you see, our surname is Bauer, and when we started, we didn't know what to call our brand. Of course, it was just our local. It was just for a hobby. But of course, once you start, you kind of need to keep. You don't want to rebrand it. It's so embarrassing. It's literally it's just Bauer wines, but we do a range. We do a range of different types. We do a fine Shiraz and Merlot, a lot of red wine especially. Um, I must after this trip. I must leave you our card, and you must visit one day. It'd be a delight for us to have you as a guest.
It would be my pleasure. Um, whilst my family specialised in sparkling white, it must be said that red holds a dear place in my heart. Tell me, do they have any on board now?
Of our wine.
Yes.
Ah, we 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 put some in. I believe they were going to serve it now this evening. I believe with dinner this evening. They only took 6 bottles, of course, but no, not everyone will want it. But they said it was a trial, and we're hoping that it goes down well. But looking at the Colonel, it looks like he's glad that he won't be here this evening for more red wine. The Colonel continues groaning and sort of looking like he's about to throw up out the window any second.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I was about to suggest that if they had some on board, we should share a bottle tonight, perhaps with dinner. But
But that would be delightful. I can ensure that we keep a bottle to ourselves. There's ways around this, of course. Not everyone will want it, especially if anyone that wants the chicken this evening, for example, might want to go white. So and the starters are very white wine based this evening. So I think it would be a delight.
as long as I'm not intruding,
No, not at all. Not at
of
all. It's an absolute
course,
pleasure.
my
Slightly
dear friend the
embarrassing,
Colonel
but a
here will
pleasure.
be long gone.
No, it looks like he's basically checked out already.
Gaston tries not to laugh. He's a fine stock and a wonderful man, and I will be sad to see him go. But thank you. That would be lovely. I very much enjoy drinking wine with the people that make it. It's quite often a wonderful insight into the spirit of the wine.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And they sort of sit there, and as you sit, like the first bits of breakfast are being brought round. It's sort of quite a nice, relaxed start to the day. There's like the tray with the toast is brought in, and there's some sort of a whole mix of continental style preserves and bakery goods that are still pretty good. Not the super fresh ones, but they're still okay.
Mm.
And while you're enjoying that, the captain enters. Of course, Captain Rudiger Klein enters in, and most people appear to be in by now. Some people are sort of late risers. It's breakfast starts quite early, of course. It's sort of a 7 o'clock sort of time, and it is only like 7:15. It's still very early still, and the captain stands there and he says, "Good morning, passengers. Um, we're making wonderful time. We're flying over North Africa as it stands, and we will be in Tangier by late morning. We are on time. It's been a pleasure to have you all fly with us. Um, as you can see, unfortunately, we've had to replace a couple of chairs after the dancing and partying last night. Hence the wine stains on the floor. And unfortunately, some joker appears to have taken as a souvenir the list of passengers which we are required to have on show at any time. So please, if you would not mind, and he sort of takes the new list and he sort of puts it up on the wall where the old one had been. It's just like it's all signed off, you know. It's all signed off on who's there. It's a bit of a fire safety list, you know. He checks it through and stuff. So if you don't mind, and please please go back to your breakfast. And where he pins it is near you guys. It's been down near where you sit all the time. And I'm just going to type up passenger. Just going to put it on for you.
I like how you say it's a fire safety list on what is essentially a small wooden barge travelling underneath a giant bomb.
Exactly.
You know, because fire is a major concern in these things.
It's very, very important. You can't poo-poo the safety of fire.
Not only would the paper list of passengers be burnt to a crisp should a fire break out, but so would the passengers.
Well, indeed, it's very important to sort of know. Obviously, I've just moved us. Oh no, what's going on here? I need to click. There we go. Off we go. That's what I need. That. And he pins the new list, and he says, "This is the new complete list of passengers as of now. Of course, there'll need to be a new one tomorrow. But as it stands, it's been a pleasure to have you all on the craft this whole time. And please enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your morning's relaxation." And he turns around and heads out again.
Wonderful. Gaston probably doesn't pay too much attention to the list, short of checking that he's in the right room, or listed as being in the right room. And we'll continue with breakfast.
Cool. The bows are happy to make small talk with you about wives and journeys and special trips they've made and how they want to go to certain parts of France, and asking you what those parts are like now and if they've recovered in like the last sort of 12 years. You know, the sort of that sort of talk really.
Yeah.
And then the coffee comes round, and by the time the coffee's around, everyone on that list, everyone on board, as the list shows, is in the dining room, sort of eating at different stages of their breakfast, chatting away quietly.
Can Gaston take both a look over to what I assume is the two Americans sat together, and then to Max Kosh and his partner in crime, their partner in crime, Manfred,
yes.
Yeah, and just check. I guess he just wants to glean a general vibe from the table. Are they acting the same way that they were at breakfast yesterday?
Yeah, they're quite stoic, but there's a quiet friendliness. They tend to chat as pairs, and they're smiling, there's chatting, there's small talk from what you can tell, eating, drinking quite casually, and that's exactly the same vibe today.
Okay, cool. And then I turn back to Otto and say, "Oh, this when you come to France, I will we'll get you some nice coffee. This is to coffee as their white sparkling wine is to the Delarue bottle."
Otto sort of laughs quite quietly as if they're sort of trying to keep the conversation at the table, I guess. And you've noticed that's the one one thing you've noticed is that the hubbub is a bit quieter than it would normally be.
Mm. I mean, no disrespect, of course. It's, you know,
Of course,
they do the best they can.
Things are still tight
So many
after
miles
the war, of course.
above the ground.
Can't always get the best ingredients, unfortunately. Can't source the beans as well, I think.
Indeed. So where do you where are you alighting?
We're making the full round trip. This was part of the thing, part of the deal. We paid to take the full trip. We'd sort of enjoy the whole atmosphere. It's unlikely we'd get to do it again. We're all in on this being a success. We're all in on this being a wonderful trip, on there being a good future for the LZ 127 Graf Zeppelin. So, I suggested they should nickname it the Emma, but they weren't having any of it, unfortunately.
It's a clunky name.
It's a clunky name.
The lazy Graf Zeppelin.
The lazy. I don't know if they go for that. It's definitely their shining light, and they do want it to be a big success. At all costs, really. It's the future.
Yes, my the colonel tells me there are grand things planned for such vessels.
Massively so, massively. Big trips, big sort of people putting money into it. Paying to help put these trips on. Big, really good brand name. People want it to be the place, the most elegant, traveling style, traveling elegance and peace. That's exactly what they want.
Sort of laughs at the elegance and peace and looks around the dining hall. Well, at least there's some semblance of elegance and peace this morning without that rowdy bunch from last night.
Otto frowns. He's like, "What do you mean? The dancers? They weren't that. People didn't get that rowdy dancing. So it was a good time was had."
No. The Hoobers.
The
Wolfgang, the table.
The who? Hoobers. Wolfgang's over there, sir, but I've never heard of anyone called the Hoobers. You banged your head, sir, that you didn't. Are you okay?
You say banged my head. What refresh me again. What precisely happened last night?
If I remember correctly, sir, there was quite energetic dancing going on, and I think someone sort of half slipped and knocked over a table, and as a glass fell, you sort of fell backwards and smashed your head on the edge there, sir, pointing over to sort of by the doorway, by the entrance, that sort of wall bit. Over there, look, I think there's probably still a dent there where you fell. You landed quite hard. There was quite concern. Myself and Emma were very concerned. I know the colonel was, and there was certainly concern among the crew. And then you sort of picked yourself off and you vanished to your room. And we didn't see. We left at a similar time and then came back through to enjoy the dancing. We sort of cooled off a bit, and no one saw from you until it quietened down and everyone went back to their rooms. People were very concerned about you, sir.
Quick above game question, Luke. Have I heard any music being played in this general area of an evening or during the day at all?
Music is played on these Zeppelins. So especially the first day there was music played, but from your memory as it stands, you didn't hear any before falling asleep last night. As an above game question.
Okay. Uh, Gaston looks somewhat confused and say, "Well, perhaps I did hit my head harder than I thought. Colonel, is this what happened?"
Um, you look over at the colonel, who's got his head uh, out of the window, puking his guts out into the North African landscape, and he
Oh,
barely gives you a grunt. This is not a good time for the colonel.
well, thank you for your concern, Otto. Emma. Hmm. Perhaps I will take a few more minutes to lie down, and I I shall see you both later, no doubt.
Please do. It'll be a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you.
And on his way, he will head towards the room, and on his way back, he would like to keep an eye out for the service staff that he dragged to the kitchen to decant the bottles and find a glass and the cheap bottle. That
Uh,
member of staff.
um, you recognise them, the service staff are the best service staff you've seen in a very long time, apart from like the fine restaurant you went to once in Paris back in the day. Very tough. What days? Very attentive, and you do see him coming out of the Bowers cabin after sort of folding up their bed and sort of preparing it for the day.
Hello.
Ah, Herdella Rue, how are you this morning? How's the head?
Yes, a little, somewhat fuzzy, I suppose. Could you enlighten me? I'd hate to think that I made a fool of myself. How was the speech?
The speech, sir, was beautiful. Honestly, we were all in tears almost. We, I must be honest, a lot of us did sneak a small mouthful of your wine. I hope you don't mind. We had to have not just a sip, you understand, but there was enough to go around, of course, and it was delightful, and the speech was wonderful, and it just started such a fine atmosphere afterwards. People were on their feet. It was just a wonderful time until you fell over, sir. That was worrying. You are okay. You didn't seem to have had too much to drink, though.
Not, cer- certainly not by my standards. And he'll wink over. I'd, I don't know. Perhaps it's the altitude. Perhaps it's something else.
Maybe
But
some
I'm quite well, thank you.
good, good, good. People do say the air gets a little bit thin. We can still breathe the air, but it's not quite the same as on the surface, even though we're not far up. Sometimes people do. It does go to people's heads sometimes. Get drunk a little bit quicker. You know. You know.
Tell me, you you don't remember any unrest, any disturbances amongst the guests last night
Last night.
that I may not be aware of?
Oh, you did go to bed quite early, sir. Of course.
Mm.
No. Um. No. The whole trip has been marvelous. It's been a perfect trip for us. It's exactly what we would want, with all the plans laid ahead. It's been such a joy to serve on this flight, knowing what we can become going forwards. It's been wonderful. Last night, it's a shame we had to go. Everyone was on top form. The Colonel was bellowing songs.
That sounds like the Colonel.
It was amazing that her, Hank, and O'Leary were teaching people the latest dances from the Americas. Oh, I'm surprised the music didn't keep you up, sir.
That is surprising. What tell me? I think I must have left before it even began. What music did you have on?
Well, bear with me a second.
But of course, Luke. But
Yeah.
of course.
Just checking. Well, of course, the evening started with Sir Marlene Dietrich, of course, and of course it would. And then it got a bit more up, a bit more high tempo. Like I say, people started singing along. The noise was it got quite raucous at a point. A couple of chairs were broken in the dancing. Then the Americans taught the Charleston, I believe it's called, and that's when things really kicked off. But it was just, we couldn't have expected, we couldn't have wanted anything better from this flight. So perfect. Everyone will have such wonderful tales of their journey.
Yes, but of course. Not live music.
No. We didn't get Miss Dietrich up here herself, sadly. I wish.
Well,
I wish.
I did wonder if she was on board.
No.
As you can imagine.
Oh, of course. If only. So she's been a long. I've been a long-term admirer of hers. I would love for her to. I wouldn't know what to say to her, but I wish she was. To serve her a drink, and not that I could light a cigarette on this on this craft, of course, but that would be the pinnacle of my career. Maybe one day. That would be the dream, of course.
Tell me whereabouts. Whereabouts is the record player?
The record player, we normally keep it towards the front, sir, out of the way. It's normally one is kept in the staff quarters because there's so little space, of course, and often one is kept up with the captain in the stair realm, just because there's just space, sir. There's so little in the dining room, but we wheel it out and play it. Wonderful, so wonderful.
Yes, it's a marvel of the modern age. Please, I'm sorry to disturb you from your duties. If I'm just going to lie down and attempt to recover a bit more, but please wake me at least. How far out are we out from Tangier, Luke?
Probably about 4 hours.
Please wake me 2 hours out from Tangier. I have some discussions to have with some friends before they depart.
Of course. He nods and he leaves the room, and he's come out at 9 and 10. You've caught him in the way, and as he walks past you, you look at and you see all the rooms. The doors are wide open, from what you can tell. Directly opposite you is 17, 18, which should be Franz Amira Schaefer, and nicely turned out. The window opens slightly. Their case is there, the bed's up, and Every room is like that, and the last couple of staff have sort of scurried out, leaving all the rooms open for the day, and it's just you in the corridor by your door.
Gaston will enter his room and shut the door behind.
Fantastic. The bed has been put
Sorry,
up, of course.
you go.
The bed has been put up, of course, at this point, but the sofa is still there.
Yeah. Can he pull the bed down?
Yeah, you can if you want.
He shall pull the bed down and check under his pillow.
Yep. Which I believe
is the bottle of Delarue there.
The bottle of Delarue is not there.
The empty bottle.
The empty bottle of Delarue is gone. And that is where we're going to finish for the evening.
No, Luke.
Yes.
The anger in his heart. Somebody's stealing his.
Never existed, did it? What?
His long lost family. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not an heirloom. It should be an heirloom.
It'd have been worth a lot more full, that's for sure.
That is true.
But
either way,
it's gone. It's gone. Sad times.
It was a joy. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you, Ewan, for playing along to it, and thank you those that
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you for those that braved the latest finish. We appreciate you all. We're going to finish up now because it's quite late here, so we're going to push off. But thank you. Tomorrow night we'll keep you posted if Ben is around. Theoretically, it's Those Dark Places with Gilly.
Yeah.
If you follow us on Twitter, keep an eye out for that. We'll let you know the deal, and we will catch you all soon. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ewan.
Thanks. Good night, everyone.